It's 11:47 p.m. The house is silent. My husband is lying right next to me, close enough that I can feel the warmth coming off his skin, and I am staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds, wondering what is wrong with me. That was my life for 8 months. 8 months of reaching for someone who flinched away from my touch like I burned him. 8 months of dressing up, cooking his favorite meals, buying lingerie that never left the drawer. 8 months of whispering, "Are you okay?" into the dark while he scrolled his phone with his back to me. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe I had gained weight. Maybe I wasn't attractive anymore. Maybe marriage just does this to people, drains the color out of everything until you're both just roommates sharing a mortgage and avoiding eye contact over breakfast. I blamed myself every single day. And then, one Tuesday night, Ryan left his phone on the kitchen counter and walked into the shower. And everything I thought I knew about my marriage died in the next 4 minutes. Stay with me, because what I found on that phone didn't just break my heart, it lit something inside me that I didn't know existed. A cold, quiet fury that didn't scream or cry, it planned. And by the time Ryan figured out what I had done, it was already too late. Before I tell you what happened, please be honest. Is this emotional neglect, or am I just overthinking a normal marriage problem? And if this story resonates with you, if any part of this feels familiar, please like, share, and subscribe, only if it hits you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand who I was before that night, so you can understand who I became after it. I met Ryan at 26. He was charming in that easy, effortless way that makes you feel like the most important person in the room. He had this laugh, loud and unashamed, and when he turned it on you, you felt chosen, special, like you'd won something. We dated for 2 years. He proposed on a Sunday morning in our kitchen. No fancy restaurant, no elaborate setup, just him on one knee in his socks, holding a ring he'd picked out alone. I loved him more in that moment than I ever had. We got married on a Saturday in October. I remember the way the light hit the reception hall. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the life. We bought a house in our 3rd year, started talking about kids. I was working as a marketing manager at a mid-size firm downtown. Ryan was in sales, good at it. Social, always out with clients or colleagues, always the last one to leave a work event. I didn't think anything of it back then. The distance started small, the way it always does. He stopped reaching for my hand in the car, stopped asking about my day with any real interest. Dinner conversations became transactional, grocery lists, bill reminders, whose turn it was to call the plumber. The warmth just evaporated. And then the nights started. The rejection wasn't loud or cruel. Ryan never said anything harsh. He was worse than that. He was indifferent. He would get into bed, turn away, and within minutes be on his phone. If I moved closer, he would shift further. If I touched his shoulder, he would give a small, tired sigh, the kind that said, "Not tonight," without a single word. I started waking up at 3 a.m. just to cry in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear me. I made an appointment with a therapist. I started working out. I read 3 books about marriage and intimacy and emotional connection. I tried date nights. I tried leaving him alone. I tried everything the internet told me to try. Nothing worked. And the worst part, the part that hollowed me out completely, was that Ryan seemed fine. He laughed at work functions. He joked with his friends on the phone. He ate well, slept well, lived well. He just didn't want me. Or so I thought. Have you ever blamed yourself so deeply for something that wasn't your fault that by the time the truth came out, you almost couldn't receive it? Keep watching, because what I found on that phone changes everything. It was a Tuesday. Ryan had come home late from what he called a client dinner. He smelled like beer and loud restaurants. He kissed me on the cheek, the kind of kiss you give a distant aunt, dropped his jacket on the chair, and went straight to the shower. His phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't go looking for anything. I want you to know that. I was just walking past when the screen lit up, and I saw a name I didn't recognize. Just a name and a preview of a message that made no sense to me at the time. I picked up the phone. It wasn't locked. I told myself I was just going to check one thing, just one, and then I would put it down and go to bed and pretend I hadn't seen anything. I didn't put it down for 20 minutes. What I found wasn't a text thread. It wasn't a dating app. It was a private folder buried 3 layers deep in his photo storage, the kind you have to know exists to find it. Inside that folder were videos, Ryan's videos, not videos of us, videos of him with his phone propped up, recording himself, watching explicit content on his laptop, degrading content, the kind that made my stomach turn, not just because of what it was, but because of what he was saying while he watched it. He was talking, narrating, and the things he said, the way he talked about women, the language he used, I did not recognize the man in those videos. This was not the Ryan who proposed in his socks. This was not the man I had been blaming myself over for 8 months. And then I kept scrolling. There was a group chat. Ryan and 4 of his friends, men I had shaken hands with at barbecues, men whose wives I had laughed with over wine. And in that group chat, Ryan had been sharing content, not just watching it alone, sharing it, bragging, rating it. And in between those messages were comments about me, about his own wife, that I will not repeat word for word because I refuse to give them space in my mouth. But I will tell you this. He had been performing for them. The whole time I was upstairs crying in the bathroom, wondering what was wrong with me. Ryan was downstairs performing for an audience of 4 and laughing about it. I put the phone down on the counter exactly where I found it. I walked to the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, and I did not cry. I felt something click into place inside me, like a door closing very quietly, very finally. And I started to think. If you've ever been made to feel invisible by someone who was supposed to love you, stay with me, because what I did next is for every single person who ever blamed themselves when the problem was never them. If this is your first time on this channel, hit subscribe right now. We tell real stories here, full stories, and we're just getting started. I gave myself 3 days. Not to calm down, I was already calm, dangerously calm, the kind of calm that comes when you have made a decision so completely that there is nothing left to feel except focus. Day 1, I made copies. Every video, every message, every screenshot from that group chat. I sent them to a private email address Ryan didn't know existed, an account I had created years ago for a freelance project and never deleted. I saved everything in 3 separate places. Then I called my sister. Not to cry, not to vent. I called her because she is an attorney. She told me everything I needed to know about documentation, about joint accounts, about what I was entitled to, and what I needed to do before I made a single move publicly. She told me to be smart. She told me not to tip him off. I had no intention of tipping him off. Day 2, I went to our bank. Ryan and I had a joint savings account. 8 years of deposits, bonuses, tax returns, careful living. I spoke to the bank manager personally. I was polite and calm, and I had every document I needed. I moved my half, my legal, documented half, into a new account in my name only. Then I went and signed a lease on a furnished apartment across town. I paid 3 months upfront in cash. Day 3, I got ready for Ryan's company end-of-year gathering. He had reminded me about it that morning over breakfast, casual, almost bored. Don't forget we have the work thing Friday. Like he was my assistant, like I was furniture. I wouldn't miss it, I said, and I smiled at him. The gathering was at a rooftop venue downtown, about 60 people, Ryan's colleagues, some clients, a handful of senior managers, including his direct boss. There was a company group chat, one of those large WhatsApp groups they use for announcements and event coordination, that Ryan had added me to 2 years ago so I could get venue updates. I had never posted in it once, until that night. Ryan was at the bar with 2 colleagues when I walked in. He waved at me across the room. Easy, comfortable, a man with no idea that the ground beneath him was already gone. I waved back.
I found a quiet corner near the back. I opened the company group chat on my phone. I had already prepared the message, written it, rewritten it, timed it perfectly. Not a long message, not an explanation, just a single line and 2 video attachments. Hi everyone, I thought Ryan's team should see the kind of content he shares in his private chats. The second video is him, the commentary is his. Have a good evening. I pressed send. Then I connected my phone to the venue's Bluetooth speaker system. Ryan had given me the access code months ago for a playlist we never ended up using, and I played the audio from the group chat video at full volume for exactly 45 seconds before someone cut it off. 45 seconds is a long time when a room of 60 people goes completely silent.
I watched Ryan's face from across that rooftop. I watched the moment his colleague tapped him on the shoulder and showed him his phone. I watched the color leave his face. He turned and looked for me in the crowd, and I was already looking at him. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I held his gaze for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for him to understand that this was not an accident, not a mistake, not something he could explain away. Then I picked up my bag and I walked to the elevator. My phone started ringing before I reached the ground floor. Ryan, 7 times in 4 minutes. I let it ring. By the time I got to my car, there were already responses in the company group chat. His boss had removed the message, but not before it had been seen, screenshotted, forwarded. These things move fast in a group of 60 people with smartphones. I drove to my sister's house. We opened a bottle of wine. We did not talk about Ryan. We talked about my new apartment and what furniture I still needed, and whether I wanted to paint the living room. Ryan showed up at our house that night, our old house, and found the note I had left on the kitchen counter. It wasn't a long note. It said, "The joint account has been divided. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't look for me." Below that, I had left the number for the marriage counselor I had tried to book for us 6 months ago, the appointment Ryan had canceled twice and then forgotten about entirely. He called 31 times that night. He called my mother, he called my sister, she didn't answer. He called 2 of our mutual friends who had no idea what had happened and were now finding out in real time via screenshots being forwarded around by his own colleagues. His boss called him on Saturday morning. He was placed on administrative review pending an investigation into workplace conduct. 2 of his friends from that private group chat, the men I had shaken hands with at barbecues, had their own wives receive anonymous emails that same Friday night containing relevant portions of the group chat. I want to be clear, I sent those emails before I walked into that rooftop venue. Everything was already in motion before I pressed send on the group chat. There was no version of that night where Ryan walked away intact. Don't go anywhere, because what happened in the weeks after, the phone calls, the attempts, the moment Ryan realized I had been 3 steps ahead the entire time, that's the part you need to hear. Ryan found out about the apartment by accident 3 weeks later. A colleague had seen me at a coffee shop near my building and mentioned it to someone who mentioned it to him. He showed up outside the building one evening. I know because my doorbell camera caught him standing outside for 11 minutes before he left. He never got past the lobby. I had filed for divorce the Monday after the gathering. My sister handled everything. Ryan had retained a lawyer by week 2, but there was very little to contest. I had documented everything, moved within my legal rights on the account, and had more evidence than any reasonable person would want to see the inside of a courtroom. He sent a message through his lawyer asking if we could talk. I responded through mine, "There is nothing left to say." And I meant it. Not with anger, not with bitterness. I meant it the way you mean it when something is simply finished, when you have turned off the stove and washed the pot and put it away and have no interest in cooking that meal again. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I kept my name, I kept my savings, I kept the version of myself that had been quietly building a plan in the dark while Ryan assumed I was just waiting for him to come back. I was never waiting, I was preparing. People have asked me if I regret it, if I wish I had handled it differently, if I feel guilty about the public nature of what I did, and every single time I give them the same answer.
For 8 months, I cried in a bathroom at 3 a.m. because I thought something was wrong with me. For 8 months, I carried the weight of a man's secret behavior as though it were my own failure. For 8 months, I shrank myself, questioned myself, punished myself for something I had absolutely nothing to do with. No, I do not regret a single second of it. Ryan did not lose his life. He lost his comfort. He lost the version of himself that got to do whatever he wanted with zero consequences because he had a wife at home who loved him too much to stop excusing him. That version of him needed to go, and I was the one who showed him the door. If you are sitting somewhere right now feeling invisible in your own relationship, feeling like you are too much or not enough, or somehow responsible for someone else's choices, I need you to hear this. The problem was never you. It was never you. The first, shame only survives in silence. Ryan's behavior lasted as long as it did because Claire absorbed his shame as her own failure. The moment that stopped, everything he was hiding became visible. The second, calm is more dangerous than anger. She never screamed, she never begged for an explanation, she got quiet, got focused, and got to work. The third, preparation beats confrontation every single time. Emotion without strategy is just noise. She turned her pain into a plan and executed it without a single mistake. The fourth, you are not responsible for protecting someone from the consequences of their own choices. Ryan built that situation himself. Claire simply made sure he couldn't outrun it. The fifth, leaving is not losing. Walking away with your name, your money, and your dignity fully intact is one of the most powerful things a person can do. If this story hit home, hit the like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't already. We tell real stories here, full stories, without softening a single edge. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part of this you felt in your chest. Tell me if you've been there. I read every single one. See you in the next one.